Welcome to the Joy of Coding. Hello, and welcome to episode 149 of the Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. Gonna be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. It is September 12th, 2018. I didn't actually think I'd be streaming today. I actually thought I was going to be away, but I'm here. So that means it's episode 149, and we're one episode away from episode 150, where I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, but I have determined that I will at least be wearing a funny hat and eating something spicy throughout. That seemed to be quite popular amongst the people that I sampled. We'll see how it goes. I'm not entirely certain how useful it will be as a stream, but in terms of entertainment, I'm hoping to go all in. All right, so what are we up to today? Well, first of all, let me share my screen. Share my screen. There we go. I also want to make sure, is it streaming properly on YouTube? I want to quickly check the live dashboard. This might, hopefully it won't feed back a little bit, or like, I just need to see this turn green. Yeah, it's green. So I'm streaming, everything's okay. Let's get down to business. What are we doing today? Okay, so episode 149. Reminder, hey, guess what? No plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I kind of have a plan, but if this late starting episode is any indication, things don't always go according to plan, and that's okay. That's all part of the plan, things not going to plan. I'm trying to capture software development in the raw. Things go wrong. I can get sidetracked. I might be wrong about things. I might get led down a blind alley. That's fine. That's the real engineering experience that I'm trying to capture. And so none of this is pre-prepared. I don't have pre-prepared solutions or anything, so we'll see how it goes. This agenda that we're looking at is a thing you have access to. Surprise! If you're watching this on the new Air Mozilla, check the handouts section, which I think is over here right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, check the video description down below for a link to the agenda. And if you're watching this on Twitch, then let me drop this into the Twitch chat right now. Agenda. Boom. And another thing that there's a link to in both the agenda and in all those places I just mentioned is this link to a form to let me know what you thought of this episode. So you can, at the end of this episode, let me know what you thought. And I would really appreciate that. I use that feedback to help make the stream better. I also want to shout out the episode guide. This is a completely viewer-driven resource for you, the viewers, to keep track of notes, maybe put handy links about each episode, maybe make corrections when I've gone wrong or updates when things change. So this episode guide is here on GitHub. We have episodes all the way up to the last one, 148. And some of them are pretty comprehensive. You get like links to various things, the agendas, some of the shout outs I did, some of the topics I covered. And then basically in this one, they captured some ideas for episode 150. And how to submit ideas. So if that's something that you would be interested in contributing to, then there's a link to the repo in the agenda. Excuse me. And in that link, if you were to go here, there is a guide, this contribute.md. If you click on that, will give you some instructions on ways you can contribute. So maybe you've used Git before, maybe you've used GitHub before, and maybe you haven't. And thankfully, SmurfD has put together this very handy guide to help you if you want to contribute some notes, add your own notes. Maybe you've got your own notes. That's fine too. All's fair. I will happily merge anything that comes into this repository. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, first of all, quick self-check. Am I recording? Yes, you can hear me. Yes, sound effects. Sound effects? Yay, okay. That's all working. I want to give a quick update on stuff that happened last week. So that bug that we were working on to fix how session storage clear worked, that landed just last week. It actually got approved to be uplifted to beta. So the patches pretty much landed as we wrote them, and that should be fixed in nightly right now. Although 3 hours ago, a dependency got added for this intermittent failure. I'm not sure what that means, but let's quickly check. Apparently interestingly, after I changed how session restore worked, this intermittent failure tended to get worse. It got a little bit worse. So I'm not sure what the story is there. Very interesting. That's not what I'm going to look at today, but that is interesting that intermittence would have gotten worse. What could that mean? How could this have changed? What's the test that's failing? It's not even a session store test. It's this like test extension web request frame ID. It's a Moki test that waits for what? On intermittent message queue empty. Got on before request expected. Expected empty. So where is that? I don't want to get down this rabbit hole too far. Excuse me. Holy smokes. But let's take a look quickly and try and understand how this bug might be related. I don't want to get distracted too much, but oh, that's exactly what I wanted. This failure log. Message queue is empty, and that happens on in the cleanup in simple test finish in the test on line 190. So there's some kind of cleanup going on in here. Oh, here. We're await message, check details, await message. So when we set timeout shim, add task, we execute a cleanup function. Execute. So is there a cleanup function? Cleanup function. Register. No. Where's that cleanup function coming from? Message queue is empty. Where is that message coming from? Message queue is empty inside test tools, and it is part of the extension test utils. So when we do load extension, which this test does, let's go back to the test definition. When we do load extension, which happens right here on line 200 of the test, then over here, when we call in the function load extension, we register a cleanup function to occur as soon as the test is done. And we check to see if the message queue size is empty. We expect the message queue size to be empty, and if it's not, well, we explode. So for some reason, the message queue is not empty after our test, or after our fix landed. And this is, how does this work? We wait for the test to start up. We await a message, check details. How does check details work? So the message that we expect have multiple ancestors. Like, what does the log look like? Should be expecting a request for file image great. File image great. And expected. But that's, oh. So we go through the expected objects and we await a message for it. I is less than object keys expected length. We go through each one. And so what about this one? File simple sandbox subframe. Do we get that far? Yeah, should be expecting a request subframe, and then we do okay, so that's interesting. There is a on before request. This thing is sending a message more times than we expect. So we should try and figure out why. Not entirely certain what might be going on there, but that is my interpretation of that intermittent failure. But I don't want to get distracted. I've been need infoed on that bug. I'll look at it later. So I just wanted to mention that we fixed this bug, but it looks like we made a test go kind of flaky. That's not so great, but it landed. So session storage.clear now works. The other thing I want to mention is that I don't know if you remember, but DevTools was particularly flashy. I tried to use the developer tools, and they were really hard because it was really hard to use because it was just flashes all over the place. And so that actually got fixed. That was a graphics bug that got fixed later that day, I believe. So someone noticed it, and someone was nice enough, kind enough to file the bug and CC me on it. In particular, here, I believe it was Michael. I'm gonna butcher this. Sapligen. This person, MYF. Filed this bug, and then they CC'd me on it, so you can see that they added me to the bug. I think, didn't they? How did I hear about this? Somehow I heard about this bug. Maybe it was this other bug. It doesn't matter. Regardless, I heard about it, and so I'm pleased to say that now the dev tools are not freaky. They don't flash like crazy when we're using them, so that's good. So what are we doing today? Now that we talked about last week, what are we doing today? I want to talk about this bug that I've been working on recently, which is to change how we basically lay out tabs in title bar on all of our desktop platforms. And that's this bug right here. Let me put that in there. And I've already been working on this for a little bit. I've gone down a couple of blind alleys already, and I'll share my notes with you so you can see all the blind alleys I've gone down. I won't explain them all the blind alleys I've been down. Wow, that's a little bug there in Evernote. The title just explodes out of that window. But I'll tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do. So very briefly, here's the 30-second pitch for this bug. To get the tabs in the title bar on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, we run this function every time the browser window opens that includes its startup that does some expensive stuff. And it's doing expensive stuff to figure out how exactly to position the tabs in the title bar and to account for things like whether or not the menu bar is visible. The menu bar is a thing that we have available on Windows and Linux, not on Mac OS. And also does various adjustments based on whether or not a full screen button should exist. There are a lot of things that it does, and you can find the code that I'm referring to in this file, tabs in title bar. Oh, not jar, JS. Browser-tabs in title bar. If you go to layout title bar, you can see all of these layout calculations we're doing in here, and those layout calculations. Here, I'll put a link there. And if you also look at my notes for this bug, you can see I'm kind of breaking down what is happening inside this function, what we're laying out. And, there's a lot going on, but probably the worst thing is that we do all of this stuff and we cause layout flushes. So that means that we're using JavaScript to perform layout. We sample the size and position of things, and we use that to change the DOM, which causes more layout to run, and it's really inefficient. I did a quick test to see what would happen if we skipped all this stuff, and we might be able to save, a couple percentage points on some of our window opening benchmarks. So that is compelling to me and something I want to look at. So I have a patch, a sort of a quick and dirty patch that experiments with how we can rework how the tabs in the title bar work. And I want to work on that today. So let's zoom in. And if you have questions, because I want to just kind of plow forward with where you're kind of, there's a terminology in fiction where it's like you're entering a story that's already underway. Oh, what's that called? Sometimes TV dramas do that, where it's like you enter, it's like a cold open, and it seems like all of the action has already taken place, and then it's like a narrative technique, and then they do a flashback. It's kind of a cliche. They do a flashback to explain how they got there. Well, you are entering the action as it's already taken place. I'm hoping not to do a flashback because there's a lot of work I've already done. I don't really want to go through it. I am going to clear out a bunch of these files here. Just don't need. Okay, well, we're going to start from scratch here. So what have I done so far? Well, one thing I've done is I've moved the title bar, or I've moved the, where's the title bar? I've moved the title bar inside the navigator toolbox, because part of the problem is that when we lay out the title bar and the tabs and the menu bar were always siblings, and one of the problems is that we were wanting to overlap them. We overlap them here, and we do that with negative margins, but then we have to synchronize their heights a little bit because we want the title bar to stretch behind the things that are in front of it, because they should look like they're all inside one another, which is kind of silly when you think about it. It's very difficult without JavaScript. I actually think it's impossible to synchronize the heights of things when they are like distant cousins or relatives of siblings from one another, unless you're using something like CSS Grid or you're using JavaScript to synchronize layout. I think it's very difficult in raw CSS to do it. So one of the solutions is, well, put the thing that you want to influence the size to be inside the thing that you're influencing. So in this case, put the title bar both inside the navigator toolbox so that it's a direct sibling of the menu bar and the tabs toolbar, and then put the tabs toolbar and the menu bar inside the title bar. That's what I've done. I've put them inside the title bar here. So inside the title bar, we've got the menu bar and we've got the tabs toolbar. And this is what it looks like. If we build this right now, I can show you what it looks like. So if I run this, and drag this over to here, it actually looks okay. It looks fine. It works. And what happens? There are a bunch of cases that we have to consider. Like, what happens if you now add the drag space? Well, that doesn't work now. And if you add the title bar, that also doesn't work because we've disabled that chunk of code. And also notice how that's unusual, where I enter customize mode and all of a sudden this thing, it gets pushed all the way over here. Yeah, that's unusual. I'm not sure why that is. And if I open tabs, also notice how there's this weird behavior where something is stretching out. I think I know what that is. I think I know what's going on. There's a spacer I've put here that I can probably get rid of. So spacer node is something that will flex to fill the space, and I can probably just get rid of that. Thing is, the reason I put that spacer there is because I want this button box container and the secondary button box to be on the hard left and the hard right. So that's why I put the spacer there. But maybe the spacer should actually be here. Let's try that. I actually think that makes more sense. So that, because we want things to be pushed to the very end. So hold on, let me drag this back. So that's not exactly right either. I mean, look, what's going on here? I mean, we got the end result that we wanted, but the spacer is pushing the tabs. It's acting really funny. It's shrinking the tabs so that they take less and less space. So let's see what happens if we get rid of the spacer, and we can understand what that's like, what the conditions are there. Okay, so that's better. That's what we want. That is what we want. Let's close these tabs. Now let's take a look at those boxes that we want to be on the far right and see where they are. So I'll open up the browser toolbox, inspect these tabs here, and see if we can find where the placeholders are. So the button box container is here. That's good. That's where we want it to be. The secondary button box container, if we give it some size with 20px height, 20px border, 1px solid red. Oh, it is at the very end. That's very nice. It's been pushed right to the very end. That's what we wanted. And maybe that's because the tabs themselves, we want them, yeah, it's trying to stretch themselves out. That's quite nice. So that's working out beautifully, actually. We have what we want here. That's good. Okay. So I can get rid of these. So we've got, getting rid of that spacer made sense. And now we have something that kind of works, at least with the old model. The old, like the Mac OS, we have the old model more or less working. We don't have the title bar and drag space stuff working, but we can look at that next. And we also need to think about Linux and Windows. And that might be a little tricky to do. Because I don't, well, we'll take a look. We'll see if we can do Linux at least. Trying to remote into my Windows machine might be tricky. I do have a Windows VM here, but it's shipping builds over to it is actually kind of a pain, and it itself has a really hard time building. Okay, so good. We have gotten ourselves into a state where we look pretty good. I want to see if we can re-enable the parts that do the title bar and the drag space business. So let's look at that next. So that is inside browser tabs in title bar, and I neutered a whole bunch of this stuff, so it barely works. So let's start slowly re-enabling it. First thing it'll do is it will read the pref to see whether or not we are allowed to have tabs in title bar. So it's going to make a decision based on the user preference, and then we add an observer for that preference. It's also, I think we can get rid of this stuff where we're observing the menu bar and then like setting some styles. I really hope we don't have to do that. So I'm going to just get rid of that. I'm also going to get rid of these other things, like the update things I want to be, I want all the updating to not be necessary anymore. I want all of the CSS to kind of handle it. Resolution change, resize, I want to go away. We'll turn on the G drag space observer. We'll get rid of update, or I don't think we need update anymore. What does update do? Update. Oh, we kind of do need update. What we don't need is layout title bar. So let's put some of this stuff back. Update is used to check whether or not we're allowed to put the tabs in the title bar, and if so, then we set the attributes on the set attributes on the window or on the document element. So what I'm going to do is on menu mutate. What does that do? That's also going to do tabs and title bar update. So let's look at update and have update change so that check to see if we're allowed, and if so, setting these attributes still makes sense. But laying out the title bar does not. That's what I want to get rid of, laying out the title bar. I want to get rid of all of that stuff. So let's see if we still need it. I'm going to, for now, just comment some of this stuff out because I might need this, or I might need to look at it in the Windows and Linux cases where we have the menu. I don't think we need this part though. When the area is reset. Oh no, we will need it when the area is reset. When the whole like area is removed, widget removed. Like if the user goes like reset to defaults, we might need to reset those attributes. That is fine. Although on area reset, I wonder if that's also going to do like the work of setting tabs and title bar. Update title bar. Get bool pref k draw in title bar pref. Does it ever set it? Yeah, toggle title bar. So that will actually already call in the observer here. It'll read pref, and when we read pref, it will use allowed by, and on allowed by is going to do the work of either updating or not. So we actually don't need the reset or widget area added. I don't know why this one is even needed. I'm actually going to look inside the history of the code and see if I can find out why. Annotated diff. Change set. We'll go to Mercurial. And then we'll go to the base. Parent. Look. Side browser. Base. Content. It's probably in browser.js. Tabs in title bar. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so we want the blame on it. And then we're gonna wait for that to load. I'm pretty sure we don't need these. So just to reiterate, this one's waiting for the user to like reset an area by saying like restore customization defaults. And that should, if I understand correctly, already like set the tabs and title bar to be the default. So like update reset button. Reset button. Disable. How do we, where's the reset? Like what's the handler on the reset? This resetting. Reset, okay. Depopulate, reset, populate palette, update, update, undo, reset. Customizable UI reset. And that will do what? Save state, rebuild, reset the UI state. Yeah, draw in title bar. It's gonna clear the user prefs, so it's gonna update the prefs. Right, okay, that's good. So I don't think we need these. Or at least we don't need this first one, so we can get rid of that. And then the on widget added one, I just want to understand what the story is on this. And the blame here is that run tabs and title bar update when nodes are added. I actually reviewed this way back in the day. And why do we want to do that? Tab bar doesn't handle tall widgets. Tall widgets, right. So sometimes there can be tall widgets for some reason. The full screen button. I don't think we're going to need this anymore. So let's get rid of that too. Let's also get rid of resolution change and resize. We'll keep the space observer, drag space observer, and the initialize thing. Alrighty, update allowed by the update. That's fine. We've gotten rid of the menu mutation, kind of, or at least neutered it, so we'll get rid of that. And we got rid of the layout stuff. So this is all gone, and the thing that it calls here, the size placeholder, that stuff's all gone. Let's get rid of that. So now we've neutered a bunch of this stuff. And what I want to do is see if that change that we just made by re-enabling some of these things. Let me just make sure that, yeah. By re-enabling some of these things, I think the title bar toggle will now work again, or it should work again, and if it doesn't work, I want to understand why. So let's go into customize. I'm going to say title bar. Hey, and we got our title bar, so it does work now. That's good. Good. Now we still have this drag space over here for some reason, and that's because the space that exists for these buttons is still being used. We need to collapse that, but we have our title bar back, which is good. That's what we wanted. And now I'm gonna collapse it again, get rid of the title bar. Good stuff. So let's also look at drag space. What happens if we enable drag space? Hey, we get our drag space at the top. That's what I wanted. That's nice. Now the height over here hasn't been correctly adjusted. We're gonna need to work with that a little bit, because I think that's supposed to be like centered vertically. And also what happens if I update the title bar. That's good. Okay, so this stuff's actually kind of working. I think the buttons are supposed to remain centered. Let's see what happens whenever I do that over here. In my default profile here, we're gonna turn on the drag space. Yeah, it's supposed to stay vertically centered. Let's use normal density drag space. So density is another thing we have to think about. What happens, pardon that noise, what happens whenever we change the density here? Compact, that still kind of works. We have the drag space at the top. And so the only thing that's kind of busted is the vertical centering, which makes sense because the layout title bar stuff was what was centering that vertically before, because vertical centering can be pretty tricky. So things that are broken, Mac OS, things that are broken right now. Let me just take some notes, and I'll put some checkboxes so that we can keep track of them. Things that are broken include vertical centering of the button box, the window caption buttons, when drag space is enabled. And what's the other thing? Is that when the title bar is enabled, system title bar is enabled, the button box still takes space left of the tabs. So I think we can take care of these. Let's see if we can do it. So let's come up with a plan. I think the button box being visible is an easy one, because what we can do is inside. I think we want this rule to be just true in general, so we can put it in browser-based content, browser.css, that if the tabs are not in the title bar, then the button box should probably be invisible. Title bar, button box. So if the tabs are not in the title bar, then the title bar button box should be display none. So let's see if we can do that. Actually, sorry, I have to rebuild. Mock, build faster. There's actually something that is, I think I've never used before, but I'm interested in now. Mock watch. Oh man, I have to use artifact builds for mock watch. Never mind. Not using an artifact build. So customize. Let's enable the. That's good. So we've gotten rid of that little space there. This is an interesting glitch where the title bar texture pulls down if we're in a normal tab, which is expected, but in customize mode, it gets slurped up. So let's write that down. So I can say that's fixed, but title bar texture is pulled down correctly, except on about except in customize mode. So that's a question. Why is that? But before we get there, let's take a look at our vertical centering. It's kind of glitchy. It's rendering. I'm not sure if you're seeing that. It's like I'm getting double vision at times. Oh, my nose is so itchy. What is the deal? So whenever I have the drag space enabled, this button box, like the drag space is where? At the top of the title bar? Where is this drag space coming from? Let's take a look at the drag space observer. Extra drag space goes on the document element. Let's take a look. Extra drag space in our CSS probably right here and in here. Let's take a look at these rules. Tabs top border width. Okay. Here. Not extra tab space. Here, if we're not using extra tab space. When we are doing extra tab space, then the space above the tabs bar is 8px. So space above tab bar. And where's that being used? Space above tab bar. Padding top on Linux, min height The title bar, the minimum height. It's just adding to the height. Okay. Right. Where? Where are you doing this? Main window, title bar. Well, it's actually not, this rule doesn't apply. For tabs and title bar analysis, stretch the title bar down so that the tab strip can overlap it. That's interesting. Maybe that's related to why on Linux that's, or I don't know if that's still necessary, actually, because we're inside now. So this might, maybe we can remove this. Let's add that to our list. Maybe can remove this since title bar contains tab bar. Okay. And maybe that's really what's going on here, is that the padding on top of the tabs right here is what's pushing everything down. And then on over here in the button box, whoops, here in the button box, the sizing it's an H box that has what being applied to it? Margin to the left because of the inner title bar button box. Margin left of 12 actually, so yeah, 12. So that explains that little gap. And then above and below, I don't know why it's so large. It might be taking up the same vertical space as the tabs toolbar, or as the internals of the tabs. Yeah, each of these things all share the same height. So there's some hacking I could do. Like I could do some pretty cheap hacking where I could say like, well, margin top, set that to be minus calc minus 1 times the space above the tab bar. And that centers it properly. And there might be a different way I could express that. Like I could say minus, well, no. That actually, I'm quite actually pleased with how that's expressed. And that kind of does it, which is nice. So let's see if we can express that on Mac OS and maybe in other places. Well, yeah, because in other places we don't vertically center the buttons. Mac OS is special that way. So I want to kind of handle this specially for Mac OS. Title bar button box. So title bar, button box, when the we can just keep that. We don't need the, because the variable is what's changing. We don't need to like have an attribute selector there. We just run that calculation, and the when the variable changes, the math will be updated, which is kind of nice. Yeah, that does it. Cool. So that almost takes care of it for Mac OS, I think. I do have this question though about why in some cases, whenever the title bar is disabled, or a title bar is enabled, why we sometimes stretch down and why we sometimes don't. So let's take a look and try and understand what's happening here. Let's enable our dev tools again. Take a look at this title bar. So that's the title bar. And it has this background right now of what? Does it have a background? Oh, maybe it doesn't have a background, and then we apply a background here. Title bar. No. Layout. No border, so no. Title bar. 29, that's a height of 29, and it's there. That's the title bar. And then we go here, it's still the title bar, and what's the only thing that's changing is the background. So my question is, what's the dealio? Why is the background changing? So let's take a look at the computed styling of it, of this title bar. Maybe there are some clues there. Customizing, when the customizing is true, does anything in here change? Maybe that's what we should do actually, is see if we can monitor, see if we can see a flash of something changing in our dev tools. So yeah, stuff's definitely changing. The tabs toolbar changes. The window also changes. Like, I wonder what's the Chrome margins is what's important here. Chrome draw title true, customized enter true, UI density. So let's see if I can mess with these, like customizing false. Doesn't change it. Customize entered false. No. Draw title true, UI density compact, session restored, Chrome hidden. So now let's go away. Chrome hidden, draw title is true still. Why? Tabs toolbar. Is the background some part of this? Maybe this thing, is its background changing? That's what I was wondering before. Maybe in with Moz appearance none, and then the Moz appearance none is removed. Now why are we Moz appearance nunning it? So if I go here and I get rid of Moz appearance none, then it stretches properly. Good. Okay. Now why is that? Oh, that's a bug too. Oh, wait. And maybe that's why we do Moz appearance none. Is it? Right, to strip it of the binding powers. Because if you don't have Moz appearance none, then I can like drag and drop. There might be a better way of doing that. It's also glitchy. Drag and drop is glitchy. Drop is glitchy. We get this weird space at the bottom. What's up with that? So the Moz appearance none, what's its normal Moz appearance is toolbar. And when we get rid of it, what's the advantage of Moz appearance nunning? I can't think of one, but let's assume there is one, and find out why Moz appearance none is added. Maybe there's a comment in here. Nope. Let's find out. Let's dig into the CSS. Way back in the day, Moz appearance none. That's whenever tabs on top was false. I can't think of a good reason. I think that's a leftover fragment. Let's get rid of it. I don't even think we need this rule anymore then. If we're not customizing, we're not tabs in title bar, and we're not full screen, and we're not in a lightweight theme, say Moz appearance toolbar. Otherwise Moz appearance none. Maybe there's a reason for theming, like if we install a lightweight theme, like I do customizing. Then shouldn't the tabs toolbar be Moz appearance none now? Yeah, it should be Moz appearance none. I guess that doesn't matter. Doesn't do anything. So what's the point? Full screen. Let's just get rid of this. I can't think of a good reason. Let's see what happens. Let's just play with it for a bit and see if the reasoning outs. So now we can rebuild. Eliminate the tab bar, title bar. We can make the theme light. Oh, theme light, I said, not dark. And then add a title bar. Theme default. drag space. That's all working out okay. All right. So I think that seems all right. Let's now see what happens if we try and figure out, I'm going to check these off. Vertical centering, that's done. Title bar texture, that's done. I think we can remove these lines too, the min height of things. I think we can get rid of that. I think we can get rid of that too, actually. All right. So let's see if we can figure out this whole like dragging tabs problem. Like, what's with that space? It's like it's there and it's gone. What's the dealio? So let's apply some detective work. See where it's coming from. I'm guessing that this is being added to the bottom of, I'm gonna just make a guess and say all of the tabs or all of the toolbar. So let's see if we can like observe some kind of attribute. Yeah, moving tab equals true. It's set. So let's add that attribute here. Moving tab equals true. Yeah, and that adds something to the bottom. Now what is that? What is going on? We add this padding bottom for some reason. Why? Let's find out. Is there a comment? There is. The next three rules allow dragging tabs slightly outside of the tab strip to make it easier to drag tabs. Interesting. Let's take a look at the bug where this came from and see if we can understand what's happening. This is in general in browser-based content browser CSS, and this was added, well, apply padding to the tabs to avoid other items moving when dragging tabs. Here, so it adds padding bottom, and then tab browser tabs also gets padding bottom, but it also slurps up its margin bottom. Interesting. Can we maybe find a test case? Place the bookmarks toolbar in the tab bar, grab and move a tab. While dragging tab around, the bookmark items are centered in the toolbar but shift downwards. Screen capture, and this was a year ago. So, pretty recent actually. Oh, that's interesting. Apply padding to the tabs toolbar to avoid other items when dragging. Tabs. What that did is, well, all this stuff. But I want to understand more about the next. This increase the drag space. Okay, so this was further back in the day. This is fixed in Firefox 57. I've noticed that dragging tabs in Firefox does not work like in other GNOME apps. Basically, you can drag tabs along the tab bar to change this order like it's somebody knows. So you can also drag them up and down. If you accidentally drag them up and drop them on the bookmark toolbar, you got a bookmark for it. And if you accidentally drag it down, you load that page again. As you can see in the attached screenshot, the good area is quite small compared to the bad areas. It's very easy to miss and drop the tab in a wrong place and perform an action you didn't want. So it's like, well, careful, don't want to accidentally drag. And this was 10 years ago that was filed. The more we increase this, the harder it is to tear off a tab without making a large mouse movement. We're trying to balance ease of reordering tabs and tearing off tabs. Chrome looks to tear off at about 15 pixels from their tab bar, even though their nav bar measures about 35 pixels tall. Edge tears at 8 to 10. Interesting. So for reference, for my own notes, that's from padding and negative margin voodoo added in this bug. I did remove this stuff. Can we simulate the problem? So like, let's try tearing. Oh yeah, it's like, it's not very forgiving. Dragging when you're outside of here becomes a little less easy, whereas over here, I can continue to drag even if I'm below or down here. So it's a little more forgiving. So that's the bug that we're trying to fix here. Increasing the drag region. So the way we did this before was we had this padding on the bottom of the tabs toolbar, like that. So why can't the negative margin pull up like it was before is my question now. So moving tab equals true. So how come the negative margin on the tab browser tabs isn't working? We do have a negative margin there. Is it because of the other things in here? Because now we have if I display none this, no. That doesn't help. How come it's not pulling up the bottom? Margin bottom minus 35. Oh, so that works. Minus 15. Padding minus 25. So it does work. It's just the wrong number. And why is that? If we get rid of the margin bottom and the padding bottom, then what's going on? How come what else is happening moving tab wise that is affecting us? Padding bottom here. Aha, that's why. So we add this padding bottom here, and then in the tabs we also added a padding bottom. And that pushes things down even further. So maybe we just don't need this padding bottom, we just need the other padding bottom. Or we don't need this one, we just need this one. So now, like, no, we need both. Or we need this one. Moving tabs equals true. Removing tab. So we'll add our padding bottom there, and then over here we'll get rid of that padding bottom. Does that? No. Need both. That's frustrating. And why is this not working now? Because we're inside the title bar? Because there's a menu bar. No. Let's display none. Why is that not working now? This hack. If I hide these again, and then say false. Still doesn't work. It's because of some of the other rules I took away. Are there rules that I took away that could be impacting us here? The Moz appearance none, maybe. Except that it doesn't have a moving tab rule. We don't. I can't see how any of these things would be impacted. Let's take a look at how Jared did it. Whoops. Yeah, this rule. Oh, and yeah, he sets an attribute moving tab and then removes it there. Oh, and over here we say the arrow scroll box in tab browser tabs needs to be min height this. Events, none. Notice he didn't, he only added padding bottom on this one. And then later on, in this bug, the next rule is dragging tabs slightly outside of the tab strip. So what do you do? As if the tabs toolbar. The tabs toolbar next to the nav bar does margin top -15. Tabs toolbar is no longer next. That's the problem. Is no longer next to the nav bar. This is the problem. So we have to adjust this. This is the problem. So the tabs toolbar is no longer next to the nav bar. It's a more distant cousin. So we can't do this anymore. The tabs toolbar is inside the title bar. So maybe the navigator toolbox is what needs to have the moving tab rule set on it. Tab browser.xml. What do we want? And what's the global for G nav toolbox? Is accessed. So moving tab. We'll do G nav toolbox. Okay, and then in our CSS, we'll say navigator toolbox moving tab. And then title bar, tabs toolbar. Tab, we'll say, yeah, padding bottom there, and then navigator toolbox. Title bar, tab browser tabs, and then we'll say nav bar, title, navigator toolbox, moving tab, nav bar. I think that'll do it. Run. And then I think I might call the episode here, but let's see if we fix this one. Not quite. Almost. One of the rules isn't being applied properly. Looks like one of the paddings on the bottom. The negative margin's working correctly. Let's see if we can figure out what's going wrong. And then we'll call the episode there. So on the tabs, on the navigator toolbox is where I'll set moving tab equal true. And so I would expect the tabs toolbar, so under title bar, navigator toolbox, moving tab, tabs toolbar, does not have a padding. Tabs, aha, that's why, padding bottom. So if this had, for example, a padding bottom, we'd be good. Padding bottom 15px, I think that gives us what we wanted. Yeah, that's what we want. Let's restart. build faster. And if that's it, then I'm gonna I'm gonna cap the episode there. We're gonna call it a day. And I'm gonna have to find a way of breaking down this patch for my reviewer. This is gonna be a pain in the butt because we're covering a lot of ground. So that appears to fix things. 15 pixels tolerance. Very good. And now let's disable the title bar. Disable the drag space and make sure that still works. Very good. Very good. And that's what we want. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to maybe what I'll do is I'm not going to commit this right now. I might fold some of the stuff into the previous patch and create a new commit. Actually, I've got like 4 minutes. Let's do that. Let's see if we can do that. So C record. I'm going to create a couple of patches here. The first one is like get rid of stuff we don't need. So basically, we'll keep all of the changes. We're going to commit all of the changes that are inside of browser tabs and toolbar. We're going to not commit these right now because I want to have explanations for why I'm making each of the changes. I am going to commit this one, so I'm not going to commit that. I am going to commit that. I am going to commit that. I'm not going to commit this. I'm not going to commit this. So I am committing basically this first, and I'm going to say, what's going on here? Python, please disable exception C record first version. Please disable C record. Oh, come on, man. Is my Mercurial, is C record? One sec. Let me do this off screen actually because I've got some API keys in that file. C record, where's C record? Okay, I've got this directory. Is this a, where did this come from? C record on Bitbucket. And what version am I even on? 2008. Is there a version number tested with up to 3.6? Let's see what's going on in this repository ever since. Oh, since Mercurial version 3.5 C record has been integrated, in order to use it, add this interface equals curses. Curses! Okay, so we can actually, I can disable C record. I'll exit that file. And now I can just blow this away. And I should, I think I remember now, just commit interactive. Yeah, and so we're gonna do the same thing as before. We're gonna commit not that, not that, yes this, not that, yes this. Cool, and I'm gonna say bug such and such. Or I'm actually not gonna put that. I'm just like disable more general disabling general reorganization of browser.zool for new tabs in title bar code. So I'm going to fold that in, and then for this rest of these changes, I'm going to do the another commit interactive where first I'll commit these two, the moving tab stuff. actually, yeah, I'll do the moving tab stuff first. Bug, such an, not interface, curses. Bug this, moving tab attribute to navigator toolbox to account for tabs toolbar not being a sibling of navbar anymore. R is DAO. And maybe that one should have a bigger explanation of why I'm making the change. That's always important. But I'll do that in a sec. So I've got two things left. She commit interactive. Not that. Yes, this removal. Yes, that removal. Yes, this removal. Yes, that removal. And not that. So bug such and such, get rid of CSS that's no longer needed with the tabs in the title bar node. And then over here, what's left? Commit two more, interactive. Hide the window caption buttons if buttons hbox if the native title bar is being drawn. And then here, keep the Mac OS window caption buttons vertically centered, even when drag space is enabled. And that's that. All right, so I think I'm gonna call it here. Hey, thanks so much, HG Mind Blown from Smurf D. Hang on, maybe I've got a sound for that. For a mind blown. Do I have that? Mind blown.
Hey, what happened?
And
Mamma mia!
Oh yeah.
Or there are a couple of like leveling up sounds. That's a good one. Another good one. I like that one a lot. All right, so there you go. Mercurial Commit Interactive. It's a great thing. Check it out. Hey, thank you so much for watching episode 149 of The Joy of Coding. What'd you think? Let me know. There is a form to fill out here in the agenda. Rate this episode. It's in the same places where you got the agenda. There's also a link in the agenda just to overload. I'm going to drop a link inside both the Live Hacking IRC channel. I can say thanks for watching. Please rate this episode. And I'll do that for the Twitch people as well. And let me know what you thought. I read everything that comes in. And next week is episode 150, barring total catastrophic failure on my part. Next week should be episode 150. Tune in. It should be entertaining. I don't know how deep I'm going to go. If you want to see me dealing with really, really hot food while trying to struggle through some programming, I thought that'd be entertaining. Let's see what happens. And I'll probably wear a funny hat. All right. So, again, thank you so much for watching episode 149. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.